Dan Patrick with some thoughts on the Mac Jones-Bailey Zappi situation. Look, here's the bottom line. Bill Belichick was asked at the end of the season, is Mac Jones your starter for 2023? The response was, Mac Jones has proven he can play in this league. Then last week at the league meetings, Bill Belichick is asked about quarterback competition. However it was framed, the bottom line is there is one between Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. It was awkward last year. It's rooted in the fact that Mac Jones was expected to entrust his career development from Josh McDaniels to the Frankenstein monster of not offensive coaches, Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, and it was a disaster. It was a mess, and Mac Jones, not willing to be a Stepford Patriot and just smile and take it. He made it known privately. He didn't quite make it known publicly, but he was not happy with the way things were going. We saw it very publicly on the sidelines, and I have a feeling we're going to see the video of it soon, of the F-bombs that he was just throwing around at anyone and everyone. By the end of the season, he had had enough. He was mad as hell, Miles, and he was not going to take it anymore, and he let everyone know about it. So it's dysfunctional, it's ugly, it's messy. Grab bag time, weekend review, take your pick. Who deserves most of the blame for the current situation in New England between Mac Jones and Bill Belichick?
Oh, it's totally Bill Belichick. And I just want to acknowledge the fact that I have seen Network, so I actually understood that reference, even though it's a movie that premiered before I was born. But when you're talking about this whole thing with Bill Belichick and Mac Jones, and you got Matt Patricia involved and Joe Judge involved, I mean, I think it really bears repeating just how ludicrous this was as a concept, where you have a defensive coordinator who was a failed head coach taking over as offensive line coach and like the offensive play caller, and Joe Judge, who was a special teams coordinator and had one season as a wide receivers coach and then was another failed head coach, and you have him leading your quarterbacks room. That's ludicrous. After he was with Josh McDaniels, who is regarded as one of the better offensive minds in football. You know, this is a second-year quarterback who you're trying to make into your franchise guy, and that's who you have him set up with. I think that was wrong, right? And if it had not been Bill Belichick, then that person who set that up probably would have been fired, because that was ridiculous. But at the same time, I think it's unbecoming of Mac Jones to like do a Logan Roy type F off, you know, when he's like shooing away the play calls when you're in the, like, that's not good, a good look on the field, right? When you're on the sideline and you're doing that kind of stuff, you know, if that's Jalen Hurts or a Patrick Mahomes or even like Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, I think that we would have had a different sort of level of criticism for that than we had with Mac Jones, because it was the Frankenstein monster that he was coaching him offensively. But it's not a good situation. And somehow they've got to either smooth that over or maybe they won't. And Mac Jones will end up playing somewhere else.
Well, I think by the time that Mac Jones started blowing a gasket on a semi-regular basis, we knew where the source of the dysfunction was, and it was the network moment. I am mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. Let me tell you my network story real quickly.
Oh boy,
this is not something I'm proud of. I love Bryan Cranston, big fan of Bryan Cranston, all the way back to Seinfeld when he was Dr. Tim Watley. I've read his book. I can't remember the title of it, but it's the Bryan Cranston memoir, or memoir if you're feeling a little fancy. So I used to travel a lot more than I do now, and Jill and I were in New York for something. I can't remember what it was. It was in the off season. It was probably there's a thing we do in May every year where you get together with the sponsors and you have dinner and you do all that. So it's been several years ago, at least 4 years ago. Bryan Cranston starring in Network on Broadway. And here's rule number one about going to any Broadway show. Do not go to the show on the day that you have traveled, because once you have gone through everything that goes along with traveling, you know, getting to the airport, lugging your bags in and going through everything, getting on the plane and living through the stress of the aborted landing and getting through LaGuardia into your hotel, and you check in and the adrenaline wears off the moment you sit down. We were front row for Network. Front row, and I fell asleep. So if I ever meet, I'll say from time to time about certain people who I don't know who they are. I wouldn't know them if he came up and kicked me in the balls. If if I ever meet Bryan Cranston, he will probably have a flash of recognition that you're that guy that fell asleep in the front row while I was trying to, and that was you. And Jill was like, kept nudging me. But it was like one of those moments where you're just physically impossible. I could not stay awake, and the show was great, but it was the circumstances. I was exhausted. The batteries were dead. Anyway, that's my network story. So much for us being ahead of our time that we have available for today. But I was awake when he said the famous line, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore." And he may have been talking about the fact that I repeatedly fell asleep in the front row of the show. Okay, so look, I think everybody deserves blame here. And you're right. I don't think Mac Jones is accomplished enough that he should be walking around dropping F-bombs during a game, no matter whether he has justification or not. And I got to a point where I'd kind of had enough of the Mac Jones acting like the punk routine, and I think a lot of other people may feel the same way. So, I think Bill Belichick feels that way. I mean, Sims and I were talking about it earlier this week. The idea, and I didn't know about this, that Mac Jones was calling Alabama basically saying, "Can you help me with this rudimentary crayons and popsicle sticks offense that we have here?" So that pissed off Bill Belichick, and I know that my report that Belichick was shopping him sparked some people calling it. Gronk called it fake news, and okay, Gronk. When I saw what he said to back it up, there was nothing there. It was just, I don't think it happened. Okay, well, I don't. I mean, what kind of a rebuttal is that? I don't think it happened. Do you know it didn't happen? And I've seen people trying to report it didn't happen. I mean, the reality is with Bill Belichick, there's a certain amount of tiptoeing on eggshells that you'd better do lest you be on the wrong side of Bill Belichick. Whether you're a team that was called, because we know how vindictive he can be when you dare to speak the truth, when you dare to do anything other than say nothing at all. So it's fine. I trust what I've heard. I trust my source on this. I've been plugged into this whole dysfunction long before anybody knew it was dysfunction. And the dysfunction is still there. Whether Mac Jones is being traded or not, the dysfunction is still there. And actually, from our perspective, Miles, it's better if he stays because it's going to be the gift that keeps on giving all through the 2023 season.
Well, if he tries to cuss out Bill O'Brien on the sideline like that, Bill O'Brien will just cuss him out right back. I think we know that about Bill O'Brien and some sideline things that he's had in the past with a quarterback who's accomplished a little bit more than Mac Jones.
Yeah, but I think Matt Patricia's the kind of guy who would have said at some point to Mac Jones, "Want to see me make a pencil disappear?" And, you know.
Whoa.
So anyway,
next topic, please.
That's not that bad. It's giving you a little Dark Knight, giving you a little dark reference from the Dark Knight. Just trying to show you that unlike you, I am aware of the movies that have been made both during and before my lifetime. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.